So just outside the Imperial Palace, previewing Newcastle United's game tonight against Urawa Reds, and I think really Newcastle now well settled into Tokyo. They've been here a couple of days. They seem to be really enjoying it. It's hard not to enjoy it when the weather's as nice as it is here. It is extremely hot. I know Newcastle fans who have travelled over have been told to keep drinking water because it's absolutely scorching here. It must be about 35 degrees today, and it won't get that much cooler later on. So yeah, for Newcastle fans, it's a once in a lifetime opportunity to come to Tokyo to see their team in action, and they're going to be going to one of the most iconic stadiums in Japan later on. We're going to be bringing you more footage of that later, of course, but just a couple of reflections on the press conference yesterday. Full focus from Eddie Howe, as you'll have now all seen the quotes from Eddie on saying how committed he is to Newcastle. Shot down the England talk. He was asked about it again. It was the overseas media who were asking that question, but a firm answer from Eddie Howe, totally focused on the job in hand. And I think really that's probably the best thing that you're going to hear on this trip for the Newcastle fans, because they do seem right behind them. I was at the fan event yesterday, the Adidas event in the centre of Tokyo, and the new kit was unveiled, and I spoke to a lot of fans, and you know, they're right behind Eddie Howe. They really believe in what he's doing. I think a lot of sort of fans of the older generation who experienced the Keegan thing, they want to believe that Eddie Howe can do something similar, and you know, in his first couple of years at Newcastle he probably has done something. I mean, just missing out on Champions League last year, but perhaps not qualifying for Europe might not be the worst thing in the world for Newcastle this season. Certainly didn't do Kevin Keegan any harm in 1996 when Newcastle just missed out on the title. And yeah, and another little link to the Keegan era is the fact that it's 28 years since Alan Shearer signed for Newcastle United, and I asked Eddie Howe about that in the press conference yesterday. I said, do you think they'll ever be in a position where they can, you know, get another blockbuster like Alan Shearer coming in breaking a world record? Obviously the finances have changed. He was quick to acknowledge that, but he says, one, he hopes that can be done, and two, he hopes that he's the manager when it is. So a real sort of forward thinking statement from Eddie Howe there. And I think really now for Newcastle, they know they need to get signings through the door, and I think they are closing in. I think by the time that first game comes around, I think there'll be at least one player through the door, hopefully two, but let's wait and see. Eddie Howe's going to try and keep us updated as much as possible on this trip. So just got the train up to Urawa, and I hope I'm on the media bus because the home club have kindly put it on. I think I'm on it. Let's hope I'm going the right place.
What a dramatic first half. Newcastle United winning here 2-1 in Japan, and yeah, that first half had pretty much everything you could want. It was almost like a Premier League game in some ways. Obviously Newcastle going ahead through Isak very early on, but the home side Urawa taking the game to Newcastle, coming back into it at 1-1, an audacious back heel, and then it was starting to get a bit real for Newcastle because they conceded a penalty. Great save by Nick Pope, and he's made another couple of good stops as well in the game. But ultimately, at 1-1, there was no concern. Newcastle recomposed themselves, and by the time that half-time whistle went, they were 2-1 up. A good run again from Willock, who's had a very good first half, and then he's prodded it to Murphy, who slammed home. 2-1 on the stroke half-time. Newcastle ahead here and hoping to continue the pre-season in great form. Well, we're just leaving the stadium now, and Newcastle United pulled off a very big performance there tonight. I know it was against a team in the middle of the J-League, but still I thought testing conditions, it's still sweltering hot here right now. Newcastle got through it. They decided to make some changes in the second half, which was probably always going to be planned, but I think ultimately for Eddie Howe to win the game, get the players' confidence boosted, there was a lot to be said for that. And I think really, when you look at the way the game started, Joe Willock playing a great ball through for Alexander Isak, who sort of weaved through the defence, took a touch and then slammed it in the corner, just set the tone for the game perfectly. Newcastle were 1-0 up and in full control, and then it just appeared that, you know, the home side, you know, they did want a big game, and you know, they levelled with an audacious equaliser back heel off the post, and then they were handed a chance to take the lead with a penalty, which Nick Pope made an unbelievable save. So that just shows you the confidence flying around the squad at the minute for Newcastle, that even in those pressure point situations, Nick Pope is able to pull something like that out of the bag, guessing the right way and making a fantastic stop, and it just kept Newcastle in it. They played it like a Premier League game. That's the truth of the matter, and they regained control before the break, with Joe Willock again making a fantastic run down the left and then throwing it to Murphy, who just picked his spot, put Newcastle United 2-1 up, and that, you know, was no more than Newcastle probably deserved, because he'd weathered the storm on and off the pitch, because before the game it was thundering and lightning, and it was just an absolute monsoon outside. I went outside to take a look around the fan park, and it was absolutely chucking down, and Newcastle fans were getting a little bit soaked. And then the second half, I think Eddie Howe made some sensible changes. He took Longstaff and Willock off, and, you know, give some of the youngsters an opportunity. Almiron got his chance as well, but the second half, really, Newcastle were just in full control from very early on. One of the substitutes, Jamie Miley, playing in Murphy, who curled home, and then Lewis Hall hit one from distance not too long after, which deflected past the keeper and, you know, made it 4-1, and very, very comfortable for Newcastle. And I think when they look back on the video of this one, they'll be pleased with a lot of aspects of it. No injuries as well, another big plus point. But I think now we're looking towards that second friendly on Saturday. Again, J-League opposition, again another test, again in front of the Japanese fan base, and another opportunity to, you know, spread the word for Newcastle United. And I think that's going to be key moving forward. They've done pretty much the global tour in the last 12 months. They've been to America, they've been to Australia, and now they've been here, and everywhere they've gone they've been well received. And, you know, picking up big results like this is always important, because it means that you know, it leaves a memory in the head of, you know, certainly the young fans, and maybe the fans seeing Newcastle for the first time. So there's lots of positives to take from it. So we're finally back from the stadium. We did have to make a real rush for it to get the last train, otherwise we would have been stranded miles away from the centre of Tokyo. So the second half of this coming from central Tokyo, and time to reflect on what was said. I think in the first half I spoke about the game, the performance, all the things that would have pleased Eddie Howe, all the things that have made this a successful pre-season on the field, at least so far. You know, three wins, one in Germany against lower league opposition, one against championship opposition in Hull, and now J-League opposition, who were quite up for it tonight. They were up for the fight. They wanted to cause a big shock, but they weren't able to do so because, quite simply, Newcastle was just too good for them. The way they were popping the ball around and creating chances and making it, just the intensity felt like it was back. Remember Eddie Howe saying intensity is our identity in his first season at the club, first 2 seasons. That's what feels like is back around the place. That was missing last year, certainly the second half of the season. And I'm getting that vibe from the players. They all seem hungry, focused, and anybody who doubted Eddie Howe towards the end of last season will probably see Newcastle get off to a flying start this time around, because the qualities that led them to where they went in 22-23 are going to, be a big impact in the coming season.